Ypsilanti Township versus Deshauna Parham, case number 24T00286.
Hello. I got a couple of fun ones. This first one is Alyssa's fault, and the next one is Judge Stevens.
Paul Barnett on behalf of the township.
Assistant Public Defender Daffy Leave on behalf of Ms. Parham. Ms. Parham, can you state your name, ma'am?
Deshauna.
Your full name, ma'am.
Deshauna Parham.
Thank you. All right, we're here for a pre-trial. Apparently she has
Judge Stevens is Shelley Needs Coffee's fault.
final settlement conference. Did that get canceled? Final
No, Your Honor.
on April 25th and a jury selection on May 2nd?
Yes, Your Honor. The court had set this date, I believe, for Ms. Barnett to indicate whether or not he was expecting to be able to proceed with trial.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh shoot, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm not in a position to answer that today. I'm sorry, it slipped through the cracks. I need to reach out to the victim.
I'll walk back to the
Don't worry, it's short. It gets worse. And the defendant eventually she talks.
Mr. Lito?
Your Honor, I would ask the court to consider a bond modification at this time. Ms. Parham does indicate that she would be willing to stay in Michigan under the pendency of the case, and we would have no objection to a tether to ensure her appearance.
Where is she going to stay at? Does she have an address?
Ms. Parham,
Huh?
do you have an address where you could stay if you were released?
Yes.
Thank you. She has not provided that to me yet, Your Honor.
I'm not going to do that right now. Mr. Barnett, I'm going to put this over for 2 days. Can
That's
you?
fine.
Right. I'll put this over to Wednesday, Wednesday, April 9th at 9 a.m.
That's fine. I apologize. I had this down as a pre-trial and I didn't have that additional information in there.
Your Honor, was that the 9th?
Yes, just 2 days from now, correct?
That would be the second, Your Honor.
Oh, I'm sorry. It'll be the 2nd, April 2nd.
Thank you.
Bond is continued as is. You're outside, Ms. Parham.
Didn't even say nothing, bro. What the hell?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
What's going? I don't even know what's going on, bro. What? Like, I don't know what is it, bro? Like, what?
I'm not your bro.
I don't understand. Why is it being pushed back? For what?
Well, first of all, your court date is April 25th. I could just continue it to then. But I'm trying to find out whether or not
No point in me even coming down. Wasting my time, bro.
this
What
one.
the hell?
Please mute her.
Stupid, bro.
The court will call the case of the state of Michigan versus Romel McMullen, case number 25S00084.
Bruh, what's wrong?
Okay, Mr. Cover, thank you. And you were charged with 2 state jail felonies. As you know, it's publishing intimate visual matter and theft of property. And Mr. Kindler here has been representing you. How long?
It's a little bit longer, but it's fun, and I miss Judge Stevens. This guy wants to represent himself. You know, that's always a good time.
Has this man been in jail?
57 days. His parole, Judge.
And he also has a parole claim. Yeah. What is the defendant's criminal history?
It's very extensive, Your Honor.
What is that?
If he's revoked on parole, I believe he was sentenced to around, I don't know, 78 years or something like that. It was a very large number. So if he's revoked on his parole,
For what? What was the sentence?
there was,
I don't have.
there's a whole.
There's no prior convictions at all in these indictments. In these two indictments, he's just charged with state jail felonies. That's all it shows. Which is 2 years. There's no enhancement there.
And there hasn't been a notice of enhancement filed.
What?
I know he's got escape, I believe. He's got aggravated robbery.
Okay. Well, is there any restitution on these two things? It was theft, I would think, would be the only one that would be possible. 2232. And how much time did you say? Ian?
He's been in jail 557 days.
There is restitution, Your Honor. I think it was around $8,000 is what the.
Do you have any way of ever paying that back if you were ordered to? Yeah, I mean, you're in custody. You don't have 8,000 handy, do you?
No, you don't. I've worked. This here is really, I can.
If you were released from these two cases, are you going to have to go serve?
No, sir, my parole's been continued already. I went through the preliminary hearing, and these are the charges that are holding my parole up.
In Your Honor, there I spoke to
What
Judge Stevens, do you have that handy?
parole officer, and they're actually waiting for the disposition of these. So if he is on these with the kiosk text that I have about him bragging about certain things and saying, I think his parole will most likely it'll be revoked and he'll be sentenced back to finish out that sentence, which was how many years?
I got 115 years.
There you
I
go.
come off parole in April of 2101. I got locked up in 1985. I haven't had a charge since 1995.
See,
And this is
that's a
coming
long
from
job
my
I think,
ex-fiance.
for this. For either of these two cases, I don't see them revoked. But I'm not the person who makes the
I
choice.
just seen parole day before Friday. Again.
I think the purpose of Mr. Carolina come over was to advise the court in seeking pro se representation.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
It's,
Man,
this is
that's
my
always-
ex-fiance.
Hold on. And you're certainly entitled to do that. I've only been doing this for 40 some odd years, and it just, self-representation, especially when you have prior convictions, there's that always has in the past worked out catastrophic for a defendant. Yeah, but it's free will. Humans are grown-ups, and you can do what you think you need to do. But what's odd is these two cases generally are not the kind that are tried. These things get resolved. I don't understand why are we trying this. I know because he wants a trial, I guess. But is it just
I think the parole issue, Your Honor.
okay? So what about it that prevents this from being resolved in ways that, I mean, he says, have you worked all your life when you've been in the free world?
Yeah.
Well, he's not going to pay it back in prison, but if he's put on something, and if he is released on parole, then there would be a chance that these people could get something else on restitution.
I think that's the issue. I think we would have agreed to potentially probation on one of them. I think the issue is you believe he'll be revoked on parole. I have sent the kiosk message to the parole officer in which he describes them as weak mother effers. they gave me parole. My first thought was these weak motherfuckers gave me parole. He's basically saying I never should have been paroled for all these different things I've done. And
Well, but
I think he believes he's going to be
defendants
revoked.
always have
His parole is going to be revoked. That's what
the
he-
inmates always have a different opinion, but others make the decisions, but they're entitled to be heard and make a statement on their behalf. But how much weight that carries, parole people and like the court or juries, at the end of the day, everybody who goes to trial is pleading not guilty. But we have, most of the cases are found guilty in spite of that. But that doesn't stop people. They have a right to plead. What I'm saying is this is unusual that he's sitting in there for 2 state jail felonies when it seems like when there's other authorities that are trying to resolve their matters with him. Why are we, why isn't there something that's reached? Because truly, if you want to set it for trial, I'm sorry, it's going to be a long way before we get around to it. But isn't there some way it can get resolved?
We've tried, Your Honor. The state's tried, and I don't believe the defense wants to. My understanding, he didn't want to accept our offer.
Okay. Well, which was what?
They got offered probation initially.
Defer?
I can't remember. I'll have to look and see. I don't know.
Did you offer him defer?
I think it was two.
Not found guilty.
It was.
It was. It was not. Well,
He's not going to negotiate with these weak MFers.
It was 2 over 5.
something burned?
No, this plug isn't working, Judge.
It was a regular probate.
Yes,
But
sir.
you're not sold on that though, huh? Deferred is also an option too, right?
They could drop it to a misdemeanor. There's a lot of things that are an option. That's what they're going to do. They could drop it to misdemeanors if they wanted to. Which would, in the normal case, would keep you from having his parole revoked, but I don't know based upon what the state.
What do you want to do? You've written all these letters because I seldom get all of these letters. You're spending a lot of time doing this. What is it you want?
All right. And I'm not guilty. There is no crime. There is none. This is my ex-fiance, and we split one way or the other, that she filed these charges because the parole officer asked her to. Now, he brought up parole. I said that. I said, when I first made parole, I thought the system was weak, but he didn't read the rest. I thought that I got an opportunity and a chance. When I made parole, I've been locked up for 38 years. I've never had a driver's license, never had a bank account. I've never done nothing. But since I've been out, I've walked down a year on a monitor. I made every visit to the parole office, every home visit, passed every UA. My parole officer and my advocate, the one that pressed these charges, got crosswise. And then when I went to my preliminary hearing, they falsified state documents. I pointed it out. That's why my parole was continued. That's why the parole, Don Allen and Tam Garrett. That's why he keeps bringing it up. Exactly. That's why.
Hold on. All of that parole stuff, I don't know much about that because I'm not involved in that part of it. What I am involved in is you had 2 indictments that were filed in December a year ago, a little over a year ago, and the grand jury indicted you on these 2 cases. That's all I'm worried about. All that other stuff, that's you can argue with in the mirror all day long, but there's nothing. I don't have control over parole.
If I might interject here, the state
I just want to move these 2 cases.
The state has introduced the fact of parole in this case, I will say that based on my discussions with Mr. Cover, there appears to be a personal relationship between his parole officer and the alleged victim. And I do have the parole officer subpoenaed as a fact witness in the case. So there is some connection between the alleged victim and parole system here. And Mr. Cover is not just off base.
In the theft case or both? In both? Okay, I see. The same person is the victim in each case.
Correct. And then there's a relationship between the alleged victim and parole.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, I do have the parole officer under subpoena. I think Mr. Cover's advised me that he does want to proceed pro se. So in the event that it goes to trial and Mr. Cover wants the presence of the parole officer in court, then there's going to have to be a way for the parole officer to be notified.
The next step. I see you want to proceed pro se. Is that right? Do you know what that means?
Yes, sir, I do. I've been in jail 18 months.
What does that have to do with electing to go pro se? I mean, he's a...
Because I know I'm going to fight for I'm not guilty of this, and I know I'm going to fight to prove I'm not guilty.
Have you represented yourself before in official proceedings?
Yes, I have.
But tell the court when you represented yourself.
I represented myself when I got 40 years for escape.
How'd that work out?
I mean, it didn't work out too good, but at least I know I'm going to try. There's no charges here.
I don't understand. Were you retained or appointed on this?
Retained.
You retained?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Are you saying he's not vigorously an advocate for you?
I'm saying, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
Well,
I know him, and we've tried 600 jury trials here. 600. I know who's vigorous and who's not.
I'm with
All right. You want to represent yourself? You've been experienced in that? Good. We'll let you represent yourself, and you can do it. It has never, in 600 trials and 45 years business, that's never been successful, but you might be the first one.
He's also advised that you don't want standby counsel.
I'm not guilty. I'm not guilty of this. So the state
right now, you're presumed innocent. I wrote the lead article on that. Are you presumed innocent? Don't dictate to me. Okay? You're presumed innocent. And what is it? You're presumed innocent. What's next?
Until proven guilty.
You're wrong. Unless proven guilty. Unless, not until, unless. There's some things you don't know.
Yes, sir. Why?
But he's advised too that he doesn't want standby counsel.
Okay.
I was prepared to stand by.
That's not a problem. We can deal with Mr. Cover, and we can get this probably best. I don't see sending this one over to drug court though. I think maybe I need to handle that. That's correct. But it'll be set as soon as possible. Okay,
thank you,
Mr. Cover.
And I think I have filed motions for speeding trial as well.
Yeah.
Mark started the right to speeding trial.
Okay. How long?
Stevens was with Moses when it all started.
How many witnesses do you presume, so I can kind of figure out how much time we want to spend?
Probably think about 7 witnesses. I don't think it'll take very long, though. Maybe a day and a half, 2 days.
Okay. What about you?
There's going to need to be some mechanism for him to get the parole officer in the court.
I can put that in there and have the parole
And
officer.
I had 3 witnesses.
Now, I know there was 2 parole officers.
You're going to have to figure that out. You're going to represent yourself. If they're not here, if they're not done correctly, we move forward. That's the way it is. You have to know the procedures. You're insisting on representing yourself. If you don't do it right, you don't get what you want. And that's, but it's like every lawyer who comes in here, they're held accountable to doing the right thing procedurally. So you just need to be ready to do it correctly.
I didn't know nothing. I didn't
Look,
all right,
sir,
thank you.
We're going to get your day. You insist on it, and you're entitled to that. And it's just everybody in here says they're not guilty, but 95% of them end up being found guilty. I'm just so don't talk about it. Just do it.
Okay.
We're going to let you have an opportunity, but you're going to have to be accountable to the procedures, knowing the procedures. And how to do it right. I mean, I wrote I help write the rules of evidence. So you got to know how to do it right. That's why lawyers, I always say, you know, I know you want to represent yourself, but lawyers come in handy.
I don't have any gas.
All right. You've thought about it long and hard and you want to represent yourself though. That's your final answer after talking about it.
What I want.
No, that's yes or no.
Okay, yes.
Okay, you got it.
Thank
Yes.
you.
All right.
I think you needed a lifeline.
All right, Mr. Cover, we're going to get to you. Truly, it'll be quicker than you think. Okay, we're going to try to get you here. Yes. No, just stand by, just to be on the safe side. I know he doesn't, but you don't know after the first witness whether he might change his mind or not, because it'll.
I'll sit there and he's saying a lot more.
I know, but you know,
I'm going to be cautious.
I think the man is wise enough in certain things to realize if things are not headed in his direction very quickly, and I don't want him to sit here. Then we'll have to stop and get a lawyer.
He's going to object to me, so I'll sit.
Yeah, you can, yeah. We'll work it out where he's satisfied. Okay, dispositions. Who's up? I have an Adrian Jacob.
Start your cameras. Got William Lucas, and then I'm waiting for Jamie Lucas. So Jamie Lucas, need you to unmute, start your camera. All right, and unmute.
Okay,
There
this
you
is
go.
Alyssa's fault.
All right, so we're taking up case 2552. The Lucases have asked for a restraining order against you, Mr. Nelson.
We've got suspected
And I
trouble.
see that you were served notice of this on the 25th of March, which was just last week, and that was Tuesday. And are you, Mr. Nelson, are you prepared for this hearing today?
I think so. My friend Tom, who's a retired magistrate, told me to just make my statement. It's brief, and then answer your question.
Okay, if you're ready, that's what I want to know. So first off, Mr. Nelson, I'm going to put you under oath. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, and then I'm going to turn to William Lucas. Raise your right hand, Mr. Lucas. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, and Jamie Lucas, raising your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so an order has not been issued as yet. The court has had a chance to review all of the information that was filed, and you'll all notice that I'm looking to another screen. I am listening. I'm looking at my file, which is electronic, but let me get that opened and then I'll start our hearing. I'll hear from the Lucases first, and then I'll hear from you, Mr. Nelson, and then I'll make a decision based on RCW that
I'll just be looking at the back of
under
my
the law
eyelids.
here that see if there is unlawful harassment committed such that the court could or should issue an order, or if not, and that's really the bottom line. So give me a moment first to get my documents open. I'm just refamiliarizing myself with what I reviewed.
I'm going to use Miss Fowler's word. She now is in a throuple. And not only does she choose to be in a throuple, and she's shacked up in the bed with the throuple. Now, if anybody thinks this is okay, I am in the wrong world.
I don't know. That may have been a premature throuple.
So I'll hear in turn. First off, Mr.
So
William
first,
Lucas,
the
since you're just
suspected
listed
throuple.
first. I've looked at the petition that was filed. I've looked at the exhibits that were filed, the note from apparently a neighbor, and then two pictures. Mr. William Lucas, anything more you want to say on the matter as to why the court should issue this order against Mr. Nelson?
All I know is that currently I am attending drug court. I have been since last May. And we had a close call with me and Albert, Mr. Nelson, coming to a fight in my driveway. And I have too much to lose. You know, one little mistake of a fight and the police showing up could really jeopardize everything that I have going on with the drug court program. And I don't
go ahead.
I don't want to risk what, you know, I have a lot of time hanging over my head, and just one little thing happening with the police could jeopardize all that. So
are you referring to what's in this petition at paragraph 17 that, let's see, you're asserting that Mr. Nelson jumped into your truck, demanded to be taken to the store to buy tobacco. He then refused to get out of your truck and tried to get you to fight him. Is that what you're referring to?
That's correct, Your Honor.
So when did that happen?
I do not remember the exact day. It's been a couple of months.
So January?
February.
It would have been towards the end of January, maybe the beginning of February.
Okay, so this year. And can you more particularly describe that when you say tried to get you in to fight him? What does that mean? Why do you believe that?
I just felt like it almost came to the point where I would have had to have dragged him out of my truck to get him out of my truck. When I was in a hurry, I was trying to go to work, and he just, I don't understand.
What did he say? What did he say to you? What did you say to him? Tell me what happened.
I don't remember the exact words, Your Honor, and I don't want to try and quoting things from that long ago and get it wrong. But basically, he called me a lot of foul names, said I owed him, and that I remember the exact words I remember was that he said I need to make amends to him and what have you. But I don't feel that way about the whole situation, and I felt like it was almost came to violence, and that basically that's about it. I don't want to try going word for word because I don't remember exactly word for word the things that
So
were
it
said,
almost
but
came to violence. So how did that come to be?
because he wouldn't leave my truck. I told him to get out of my truck. He opened the door, started to get out, then got back in my truck, and I started to get out of my truck to walk around, and I was going to pull him out of my truck. And then he got out.
All right, so is this something unusual that he'd hop in your truck to get a ride to go get to the store?
No, I've given him rides plenty of times, and I bought him tobacco and helped him out and stuff like that. And I felt like because I wasn't doing that, I didn't have the money at the moment. Otherwise, I probably would have done it, but I didn't have the money. And when I told him no, he got really mad at me.
Okay, so your impression was he was wanting you to purchase what he wanted from the store for him.
Correct.
Okay, and then have there been times in the recent past that he's gotten in your truck and you've had a disagreement about him getting out and had to deal with it?
No, it's never been like that. Nothing like that.
Okay, all right. And then there's further information about other people coming to your house and alleging that Mr. Nelson stopping them and asking for things or asking for rides. Do you know anything about that in the petition?
I usually during the day I'm gone at work and things like that, so I'm not there all the time to really witness that, but I have seen him stop people at the end of our driveway and talk to them and what have you. I can't for sure say, yeah, that's what he was doing because I wasn't standing there listening to anything.
Okay,
but
this is just weird so far.
My wife is more familiar with that.
Okay. Let's see, let me just kind of finish some of my questions with you and then give you another chance, and then I'll turn to your Jamie Lucas. So at some point, Mr. Nelson used to live on your property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I wasn't there for a long time, but when I left, he was living in the backyard.
Okay. So
And
just
he lived there for a long
invited him to
time.
live there?
Excuse me?
Just invited him to live there?
Yes. He needed a place to live, and he moved there and lived at our house for a long time. Yes.
Okay.
I don't remember the
All right.
exact amount of time, but it was for years.
How did that end?
Poorly. I wasn't there when he moved out, but from what my wife has told me, it was not a good thing.
All right. So your wife might know more on that one. So I'll ask there.
Okay. Now I see where Alyssa's thinking this might be a throuple. Because you usually don't have another man move in with you and your wife.
So are you familiar with the
Alleged.
other allegations in this petition about Mr. Nelson, the allegation that he's yelling at your son and calling him a quote, fucking retard and flipping him off? Do you know about those instances?
Just from what I've
That
been
was-
told,
that
I
was
wasn't
fun.
witness to any of that.
All right. How old is your son?
He's 10.
10 years old. And all right, well, it sounds like I'll hear about this from Jamie Lucas. And let's see.
So you have
All right,
another man.
so anything
with
else,
your wife and
Mr.
your
William
son.
Lucas, before I turn to Jamie Lucas?
All I got to say is that we don't want drama at our house anymore. And Albert seems to always bring drama. He's got a very negative attitude towards people, and that's about it. We're just trying to cut down on the drama and the stress of people.
So what are you asking the court to do?
Okay, he's a woman.
Whatever they feel is right with the situation.
You're the one who brought this petition. I want to know what you want out of this petition.
I just want to say this. Albert's been my friend for a very long time. I've known him for a very long time, and he hasn't always been like this.
We're so close. I shared my wife with him.
So, I mean, it's hard for me to say bad things about somebody that I've had, has been a friend for a long time. But Albert is a guy when he's very angry and negative, and we can't have that around us, and we can't risk the chance of some violence happening, especially with a 10-year-old's boy. And that's about it.
Okay.
I feel like that's just a risk we don't want to take. And
okay.
That's about it. All I got.
So in what way are you asking the court to prevent Mr. Nelson from contacting you? What are you looking for?
Zero contact. We don't want nothing to do with him.
So how close he's living in an adjoining property?
He lives at our neighbors across the street from us.
So across the road, not an adjoining property?
No, across the road.
Okay. And so the road is the way people get in to your property and your neighbors, right?
Yeah, everybody has to use the road.
Okay. And any other shared common areas in this neighborhood?
No, nothing
No
like that.
mailboxes, no.
No, they live
garbage
across the
area.
street. They have their own stuff, and we got our own stuff.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Well, let me turn to Jamie Lucas.
Yeah, apparently you
and
did.
Hear from you, Ms. Lucas. So, what would you like to say about your petition and why the court should issue this order?
Albert did live here for almost 10 years, and his mental health has declined. He gets the seasonal depression, and it gets worse and worse every year. At first, when he came to us and said he needed a place to stay, we allowed that, not realizing it was going to be for as long as it was. But it was fine, and it worked out fine at first. But every year it got worse and worse. And he does have some major anger issues, but he was able to keep those at bay for quite some time. But when the time came for him to move out of here, it got to where my 78-year-old father was outside with me, and Albert had came out of his house, his tiny house, and was foaming at the mouth and screaming and calling me the C word and telling me, I'm not going to do anything. And my dad about had a heart attack trying to get him to calm down because he was really coming at me.
Are you exaggerating there when you say your dad had a heart attack?
No, he almost did. He was.
So did he have heart pains and had to call
Yes.
911?
No.
Okay.
No calling
All right.
911. But
Pardon?
that is when both my father and I decided, I don't know that Albert needs to stay here. He really needs to figure out what's happening. Then the next
How did you end this moving on your property?
I came into my house. I walked away. I said, Albert, if this isn't going to stop, I am going to call the police. I walked away. I came in my house. He didn't follow me. And there has been times that he has followed.
So tell me about that instance first, though. So when was that about?
Oh, that was before he moved out. So that's been 3 years now, maybe.
When did Mr. Nelson leave your property?
I don't, about 3 years, maybe.
Okay, so about 3 years back, and then did he move directly across the street at that point, or?
No, he actually decided that it was best that he was going to move, and he was going to move to Oregon. And so he moved like 7 hours. I don't know exactly where, but it was a long drive.
When did you next see him?
October or early November of, gosh, was it 22? I think it was 22 when I took my dad and went to California to see my daughter. And when we came
so
home,
around October of 2022, you notice he's living on the neighbor's property now?
Yep.
Okay. And so since then, why is it, so here we are, and that's 2+ years ago.
Mhm.
So here we are with a petition asking that he not have contact with you. When did this subjectional behavior start happening after October of 22?
We really didn't have a whole lot of contact when he moved back, but we also weren't really on bad terms either. But he stayed over there. I stayed over here. It wasn't until February-ish of last year that William had moved back into my house due to a really bad accident. And he had
have to tell me why. I just need, my question is try and hone in on your allegations against Mr. Nelson and when things started up that has you here in court.
That's when Albert had started coming back around, was about in February, like coming over to my property, to my house, and it was saying hi to William. He hadn't seen him in a while.
February of when?
Of last year, 20.
Okay, 2024. All right. So over the last year, it's been developing.
Yes.
All right. And so then what I talked to William Lucas about is this event that in his truck. And then further in this petition, it says I presume that's Mr. Nelson, waits for our company to pull out of the driveway, stops them to ask for cigarettes or money and ride to the store. So when did all that happen, or when?
Actually, the officer that we had called and he's the one that told us that we need to get the anti-harassment order. That started happening probably early February of this year.
Okay, so about a year passes and things are okay, and then things start de-evolving.
Things were not okay. No, things were not okay. I ended up telling Albert he wasn't welcome to come back on the property, probably April or May of last year, and he hasn't come back on the property. But what he does is he walks across the street onto our side, sits right outside our fence. Our property is fenced, and we have 4 German Shepherds. And he sits right outside of our fence on a bucket and stares down here, and he'll yell until he gets somebody's attention, or he sits out there with his
That's
dog
creepy.
and just our dogs are just running the fence, and he's antagonizing them. It's getting to be frustrating that he just, I don't mind if he sits outside, but you don't have to be on our side of the road, and you don't need to be yelling down here to anybody that is outside in our yard mowing or whatever they're doing. And then sitting there antagonizing our dogs and getting our dogs to just constantly bark, 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 and it won't stop because he's just sitting and talking, and he brings his dog. It just, when I have company that leaves, he literally sits out there and watches and waits for one in particular person. She's a lady that I pay to come and clean my dad's house every 2 weeks, and he waits for her to leave, and then he stops her and asks her for cigarettes. So she wants to wait until he's no longer outside in the front yard, and then she hurries up and gets in her car and gets out of here so that she doesn't have to have any interaction with him.
Okay. And then you say that your little brother went to put mail in the mailbox and you started yelling at him, tried to get him to fight with him. What did you see there?
He sits, he yells, and he says, "Come on, what are you going to do? You're going to fight me? You're going to fight me? Come on, hit me, hit me, hit me." And so much to where the other neighbors that live down the
So
road.
tell me more, your little brother, how old is your little brother?
42.
Okay. And so he's going out to the mailbox. What did you witness there?
I didn't witness.
Oh, okay. So I don't
No,
know
I
about that.
was actually at work.
Right. You had a couple of, well, we have a statement here from someone. Let me see. Is that your little brother? No. Jesse Hemley? No.
Yeah, that's our other neighbor.
Okay. So I can't consider that because I don't have really anything corroborating it and you didn't witness it. And yes. So you say at some point, Mr. Nelson raised his fists at you and screamed at you. Was this more than once, or when did
Definitely
this
more than
start
once.
happening?
That
When did this start happening?
Probably right towards the end of Albert living here is when it started happening.
So over 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Has it happened since February of 2024 when he came back to the neighbor's property?
When I kicked him out of my house, literally inside of my house. I told him, I
So
said,
tell me about that situation.
He is very disrespectful, and
How did he end up in your house? Did you invite him? Did he just
No.
show up? What?
he just showed up. I was at work, and then William was doing physical therapy and the doctors were here, and he would show up and then start talking, interrupting William's appointment. And so I came home from work, and Albert came back over and walked in the house. We were standing in my living room and started talking again about his health issues. And I said, "Albert, I get it that you have some health issues, but when William's doctors are here, you need to not be here, or don't show up when they're here, and then start involving yourself in the appointments and being inappropriate when it's not about you." And he said,
So he simply walked into your house uninvited?
Yes.
Has that happened more than once?
Yes.
Okay. And that's since February of 2024 through the last year?
Yes.
Okay. And that's how you dealt with it? You asked him to leave and then?
And he didn't want to. And so I grabbed his shoulders and turned him around and guided him towards the front door. And that was the last time he was on our property.
And you say that at any point, when you talk about raising his fists at you and screaming at you, that was before February of 2025, when he lived on your property.
That's when it started, yes. But the last time he did it was the day that I kicked him out of my house and off of the property.
All right. Great. Okay, so what exactly are you asking the court to do in an order if I were to issue an order?
I just want him to not be stopping the company that we have. I do not want him. It's very creepy when we have gatherings and we've got this man at the end of our driveway standing at our fence and just staring down our driveway. It's like it's intentional for hours. Hours. I would like him to not be looking down our driveway, not be stopping our company that is coming in and out of the driveway, and just leave us alone. I mean, he doesn't live in their front yard, the neighbor's front yard. He's behind their house with a big wood fence, so he can sit in their backyard and sunbathe or whatever it is. I do not need him sitting and watching our house. He's just sitting and watching our house and yelling and stopping our company. I don't want that anymore. So I'm asking that he not be able to even look towards our house. If he needs to leave his house, go to the road and just go straight down and get out of here. And don't be walking and staring at my house or yelling or not stopping our company or anybody that lives on our property.
Okay. So you're saying as well, you mentioned, let me look back here. You have a 10-year-old that lives with you.
Yes.
And he being included, of course, in protection.
Which is very sad because Albert and my son Jackson have been very close. Albert was a huge part of our life for a long time, and we do love Albert. We have always considered him family, absolutely, and I don't want him to think anything differently, but he needs to address his mental health issues because it's just declining and getting worse.
How?
And it's scary. It is.
How do you
so
like
scary.
a guy?
Well, if I issue
Sits
this
on a
order
bucket
on your
at the end of your-
behalf, and we hear from Mr.
and stares at
Nelson
you.
first, but if the court were to issue this order on your behalf, then contacting him, your son, William, that would defeat this order. So
We
you
will.
understand that
Yeah.
you would have
We
to
won't have any contact, no.
asking for. All right. Well, let me turn to Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, you had a statement.
Okay.
You want to just hand that up and I'll make it part of the court record and I can review it if I can read it. Why don't you just have a seat and I'll read it here out loud here. Right. So can you make a copy of this and then we'll hand this original back to Mr. Nelson.
Where's Albert? Why is Albert not here? I don't know what the hell's going on. I really can't.
Mr. Nelson, if you don't mind, we'll give you your original back.
I can't read between the lines on this one.
And then this is part of the court record. And then I'll give you a chance to read that into the record. If that's what you wanted to do. I'm turning to you as to why the court should not issue this order. I presume that you don't want this order.
Is he?
I don't.
You don't want the order.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me why not.
Oh, is that him right there?
What you need to read into the record? Go ahead.
Okay,
Is that Albert?
You want to read that into the record? You made us, that's your statement. I
read
would,
this.
yeah, I would
Okay,
think you brought
okay.
that, you took that
I
time.
have not been on the property on which Jamie and William reside in all of 24 is longer than that as much as all of, 25. It's longer than that as much
good
as
Lord.
all of 24. I don't recall the date. I reside on the property across the road. I walk on the county road almost daily as I walk my dog Raleigh. If I'm restricted to 500 feet from them, I won't be able to travel on the county road.
Okay.
Oh my God.
All right. And other information on here is a case number, your phone number,
What
call
the
at
hell
8 a.m.,
is
hearing
this?
at 9 a.m. There's something about that.
Yeah, my phone don't work right, or I don't know how to work it. I got hung up on 3 times just trying
So
to.
that's why you're here.
Yeah.
All right, good. All
And
right.
Mom gave me right here and just said, go in, and so here I am.
All
I
right.
hope so for his sake.
So you say you haven't been on their property. What does
That's
that
his
mean on their
baseline. He's in
property to
trouble.
you? What does that mean?
I haven't been in, it's fenced. I fenced it, by the way. It's fenced. I haven't been on their property since she attacked me.
So you're asserting that Jamie Lucas attacked you.
Yes.
What does that mean? When did that happen?
When I went over there, I
So
did go over there.
when that happened, generally?
That was right after Will got out of jail or whatever, and he had fallen
So give
out
me
of
a
it.
year. What year, what month? When did it happen generally?
Same as she said.
Well, I need to hear from you because
I'm not exactly sure
Was
of the
it this
date.
year?
It was a couple years
a
ago.
couple years ago. Okay, so maybe 2023?
You know, when Billy Bob got out of jail, Judge.
It was right after I came back from Oregon.
Okay.
So, and that was just like she said,
All right.
it's been 2.5 years about.
Okay, so then what happened that you say that Ms. Lucas attacked you?
Okay, so I did go over to their house and I was welcome over there. And I knocked on the door and Will hollered, come in. He was still in a wheelchair and stuff, right? And there was a counselor lady in there. And we talked briefly and excuse me, I tried to turn this off. I don't know how. This phone.
On the side, pull it out on the side. I bet there's just an easy little and you push it down. There you go. That just might do it. All right, so you are invited in, you say, by William Lucas. You go in, there's somebody else there, and then what happened?
We talked briefly and then I left.
Okay, so you say though that Jamie Lucas attacked you. What does that mean?
Well, so I went over there later in the evening when it was just them and I knocked on the door and they said, come in. The door was not open. And I went in there and she said, don't come over here no more when there's people here that you don't know. The counselor or whatever she was. And I said, yes, boss. And she jumped up and shoved me towards the door. I was right by the door and I was frankly turning around to open the door. I mean, I was still standing there. And then when I said, yes, boss, she said something and I said, yes, boss again. And she'd already shoved me towards. Anyway, I was leaving. I had the door open already.
Did you leave?
Huh?
Did you leave?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So you mean,
And-
attacked means what? What does attacked mean?
She shoved me.
Okay.
And Will was yelling, Jamie, stop, stop.
All right, so you were shoved towards the door, you went out the door and left.
Yeah, and I haven't been back on their property since.
Okay.
And
And
I
then,
haven't said a word to Jamie in all that time, not a single word.
okay, and then these allegations, more recently of meeting William at the end of the driveway and getting in his truck and asking for a ride to the store and having him buy you things there. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, when I walked over his truck, the door wouldn't open and he didn't roll it. I don't think he has electric windows or whatever. So he reached over and opened the door and I jumped in. And I started reminding him of the thousands of dollars of actual money I've given him. I was his sponsor and he's been back out 3 or 4 times since then.
So
I
what
don't
happened in the
exactly
truck?
know.
So you're telling him all these things that you think he owes you or amends he needs to
Why?
make.
He does, and he
And then-
acknowledges it.
And then he says that you, it almost came to blows. It almost came to violence.
I
Tell
don't
me what
think
you
it did.
remember.
I did insult him though. Frankly, I told him that he's not exactly an upright person.
All right, so
And it
you
wasn't
heard his
nice. I
account.
wasn't trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Frankly, I was angry with him.
All right, so you heard his account of things that he told you to get out of the truck. Is that,
I did get out.
Okay.
And then he went to work, presumably.
so his account was he then felt he had to get out of his truck to come around to the other side. But then you did finally get out on your own
It
accord.
wasn't really finally. It was, okay, see you later.
All right. So that didn't happen that way, the way he described it.
I didn't threaten him at all. I did insult him though.
Yeah,
I admit
hearing
that.
that. What about these allegations that when there's a person coming out of there, apparently the person who cleans the house,
Yeah.
stopping them, asking for cigarettes, money, or a ride to the store? What's that about?
It was Treva Nelson, and she was leaving, and I did ask her for a cigarette, and she gave me one, and she gave me the one she'd been smoking, and I kind of felt that was a bonding moment because we started talking about some similar interests and stuff, and it was brief, and
So had you done that at any other time?
with Treva, no, or
Okay.
nobody.
No.
Oh, I don't know. Jim used to come out, and we have
Who's Jim?
her dad.
Okay.
And I bummed cigarettes off him a bunch of times. And like, if I ask for one, he's given me 2 or 3,
Okay.
you know, because I have been broke, you know.
Okay. If there's other questions I have for you. So you're saying that other than, well, whether you were on the property or not, you were at the road in front of their
Yeah.
property at least when you got into the truck with William Lucas and had whatever.
Yeah, it was
occurred
outside
there.
the gate.
And then the person who cleans the property. And then other than that, you say, and other than going twice over to the house when William Lucas was getting some physical therapy or whatever, and then being shoved out of the house. Other than those times, you have not been on their property all of 2024 and 2025.
None.
All right.
In fact, I pet their dogs. They come out and see me. And I don't even stick my hand through the wire to do it. I just pet their nose.
All right.
3 of them. The other one, whatever his name is not. He doesn't come out there. He stays at the house or whatever. I don't know what he does.
So tell me about this allegation that you're sitting on the front of your neighbor, where you're living, you go to the front of that property and just sit and stare. What's
Well,
going on
that's
there?
an easement right there. It's outside the fence and it's the first place that the sun hits.
Mhm.
The sun comes around a tree over at my neighbor's and hits that section right there. It's an easement, and I was out there combing Raleigh. It was in the springtime, and I was picking all the hair out of him because I don't want him to get clumps and stuff. And I love my dog.
So
you
you're
know?
just out there,
It's the sunny
all
spot.
right, as opposed to the perception is you're just for hours staring at the house and
I
you're,
don't think I'm not. Frankly, I'm just not. I look over there, you know, but I'm not staring at it. I was brushing Raleigh and picking the hair out of it. He's a Saint Bernard.
all right. Anything else you want to say?
I don't want a protection order against me like
Well,
in this statement because I haven't done anything wrong. I don't think. I've been clean and sober almost 23 years and I haven't been in any trouble that whole time, except for $150 illegal lane change, which I just paid.
All right. Okay.
I really don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, just hand them over to me when we start hearing so that I got them.
I'm skeptical of this.
Well, I'm just
sobriety
going to
claim.
review a few more things, see if I have any questions of anybody before we go forward, but just hold your peace here so I can do that.
You think so? Yeah.
So let me turn back to Mr. William Lucas, that event where I usually don't go back and forth here, but I just need to clarify something. So William Lucas, so you're home, maybe in a wheelchair, but you're somehow infirmed and you're getting some therapy. And I'm hearing from Mr. Nelson that he comes over and you invite him in, and then he comes back later. Do you remember all those events? Can you tell me about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I remember it.
Can you tell me about it?
I just remember Jamie was really not wanting him to come over because those two were really not getting along at all at that time. I was back home and figuring things out, and so he was coming over to see me because I hadn't seen him in a long time, and he's always been my friend. But when he wouldn't leave the house, Jamie got pretty upset that he wouldn't leave, and was, the way he was portraying himself towards her was like he's just gonna stay there because I invited him in. But it's her house and all in, so she pushed him out the door and he didn't want to go. I mean, that was pretty basically how it all went down. And when where I come from, when somebody tells you to leave their house, you leave your house. That's their house. And when you resist that, becomes a pretty tense situation. I mean, I think that goes for saying for anybody in their home.
And had this, Mr. William Lucas, had this happened since we're talking about February of 2024, when Mr. Nelson kind of came back to the neighborhood. So since then, was that only event? Or were there other times?
I mean, there's been other times, but I can't say to those because I wasn't there. I didn't visually see or hear the things, So
All right.
I've
So
only secondhand information.
Remembered.
Excuse me?
At one time you remembered you weren't there. You've just heard tell of others.
Right. Yeah. Secondhand information. So I can't say one way or another for sure. I just know from the times that I've experienced, they were very uncomfortable and tense.
All right. So then some clarification from Jamie Lucas. So that event where you had to get Mr. Nelson to leave your house, were there other instances of that sort of? He came in uninvited, you were there, you witnessed it, he wouldn't leave at your request.
No, that was last year, March or April of last year, the 24. And that day that he did not want to leave, and he was not at the door, he was all the way across the living room. When I told him, I said, you need to leave. And he did not want to leave. And I told him again, and then I guided him out the door. Since that time, he has not been back.
Okay, all right. And so the issue that caused you to come to court and file a petition for this order was, what was it that caused you to get to court?
A few different ones. The final straw was when he jumped in William's truck and demanded to be taken to the store at 8 a.m. He heard William's truck being warmed up, and so he was outside, and he came into our driveway. Yes, outside of the gate, but the gate is down our driveway a little bit, so it was still in our driveway, and jumps in his truck and then doesn't want to get out and is telling him, "You hit me, come on, hit me," which is something he does even with the person that he lives with. He's been doing that. Anyways, that was the final straw. But every time I have a gathering and he's on our side of the road, up against our fence, like, and staring down here or yelling down here or stopping people that are leaving our house, or my father, and he just waits for somebody to pull out of the driveway and just is constant. It's constant. And you can't just walk away. He just keeps going and going and talking about anything, I guess. Nothing negative but just harassing people and waits for them to leave. He sits out there and waits so that he can, because he can't come down here. He's not welcome on the property. So he'll sit on our side of the property, right outside of our driveway, on a bucket, upside down, and just sits and waits for people to leave so that he can have that human interaction with people that are leaving our house.
Okay. So, Mr. Nelson, anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But, oh yeah, ask him if, he said, Jamie, stop.
When?
When she shoved me out the door.
Okay.
And I was not across the room. I just stepped in. I was right by the door. I was turning around to open the door and.
Let me ask Mr. Lucas then, anything about that event when Mr. Nelson came in and was shoved out of Ms. Lucas's house? Anything about that statements you made?
I think as far as what I'm misunderstanding your question.
That we're trying to maybe stop or ameliorate that event. Anything
I
that you
may have said that. I don't remember exactly. I remember it being a pretty unexpected, crazy event.
And why was it unexpected and crazy? Why did you feel that way about it? What was happening that caused you to think that?
Because because he should have just left the house when he was told to, instead of standing there and trying to get her to more mad.
Okay.
You know, if somebody tells you to leave the house, you leave their house. If you're not welcome in there, you leave, right? I mean, it's common sense to me. It is.
Right. All right. Well, there's a difference there. So, Mr. Nelson, at this stage, what I have to find, and I am finding, I'm going to issue an order here that prevents you from going to this property. I'm going to say within 25 feet of the property. So that allows you to use that road to walk your dog to in and out to get to your home. But at least that. And
25 feet from the fence.
From the property. So there's a fence and then there's probably
there's an
grass
easement,
or
it's
something.
11-foot easement. I built.
We're not going to lawyer ball this. You're going to say 25 feet away from, and I'll say maybe halfway in the roadway. You stay on your half of the roadway. There you go. And you don't contact the child at all. That means Jackson, you don't contact him in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
You don't contact Jamie or William in any way, shape, or form. And you say 25 feet away from their property and them.
Is that from the fence?
No, it's from their property.
Well, the
middle of the
easement
road.
is like 11 feet wide or whatever.
You don't have an easement there, do you? You don't have rights to an easement there. There's a road and you're on the other side, right?
There's I built the fence. There's stakes there where it's.
You're not going to be on their side of the road.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to say you stay on your half of the road to go in and out and to walk your dog.
Okay.
Don't lawyer ball it.
Okay.
Don't parse.
I have no problem with that.
All right. So, I'm going to write up this order. I'll hand you a copy so you have it. It's going to be in effect for the next year. I think it's really clear after this hearing that nobody wants any contact with each other. And of course, you know, as I said to the Lucases, they kind of have to police Jackson because he's 10 and he doesn't understand these things or isn't held to understand these things. But don't put Mr. Nelson in a position that he's staying where he's supposed to be and all of a sudden someone's contacting him, because that defeats this order. I do find that there's unlawful harassment given this event, that there was intent to commit this. So let me write this up. And then so I'll just need some quiet while I do that. And I'll give you a copy, Mr. Nelson, before you leave.
Is William free to go? He's supposed to be at work.
Let me finish up this order, not until I'm finished here.
Okay.
Okay, what the hell happened here? Yes, I wanted the thruple. I don't know if we really got a thruple. I got to play my thruple clip. That's good enough. Is this your first time here, Jay? I know it's not. You think I'm going to bring some wisdom to this event? That's cute. That hasn't been my MO from the beginning. I play a clip. You guys tell me what's going on and all the other stuff that I missed. That's how it works. This is just so weird. By his own testimony and their testimony, he's creepy as hell. I cannot square that with them saying we love him. He's got another place. I think it makes sense. They get a restraining order. And seriously, is this couple still married through all this?
Make a copy.
How do you get through that? Which way is up? Is that it? Yeah, I mean he might be sober, but he's low functioning. That's why I said I hope he's drunk, because if not, if that's his baseline, he's hurting.
All right, Mr. Nelson, why don't you come on up here, and that's your copy. And Mr. Lucas, Ms. Lucas, you can be on your way now, and that copy of that order will be in the court file.
Your Honor, does that, that keeps him 25 feet away, but does that also stop him from standing in the neighbor's front yard and just watching over here?
Well, I can't really make an order that affects that. We'll see if there's something to amend this order. You can always come back to the court, but it's kind of ethereal. So at this stage, stay 25 feet away at least from these folks, their child, their residence, their vehicles. All right. And this
Should I keep
order
them
is
off
in
the bucket
effect
in
for the
front of the-
next year.
My question.
Is that on the face of that? It's on the face of that, clearly, right? In effect for a year.
Unless you make.
Yeah. All right. And so
I
to the
think that's
Lucases, if you feel you want this order to go beyond that year, then we have to have another hearing like this. Within 3 months of its expiration. So, December, January of next year, then sometime at that point, within 3 months, he can refile and ask the court to have a hearing. Everyone would be back and we'd talk more about it, whether the order should or shouldn't continue farther, or it just ends naturally on that date, a year from today. So that's all for today. You can be on your way, Mr. Nelson. Don't
Okay,
forget
thank
your
you,
glasses.
Your Honor.
All right,
I think this was helpful.
good. All right, just be on your way and follow that order.
Gonna have to sit on his bucket.
And Ms. Torres, I see you're back.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to get that information to my clerk?
All right. So can he sit on the bucket at the end of the fence? It says 25 feet, 25 yards, 25 feet. I mean, there's a difference by a factor of 3. Does he get to sit on the bucket at the end of the fence with this order? That's my question. Somebody tell me. Do it in the middle of the road. I don't even know. I don't even know how that happened. That's all Alyssa's fault. That's all Alyssa's fault. It was extremely weird. It was kind of fun. This all started way back when with someone just getting sassy with Judge Washington. And then this happened. All right. Thank y'all for coming out. I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.